stream. I hope you're all having a great Sunday. I want to start by apologizing for the poor quality of the video, and I do hope you're going to get something out of this. Thanks for joining in. Our topic of discussion today is going to be embracing failure. And why is it so important to embrace failure? What is failure, by the way? And why would I choose to talk about embracing failure? What do you think failure is all about? And do you think do you look at failure as a very bad thing or as a good thing? I'm here to tell you that failure is actually a very good thing. Failure and disappointment can be very painful, at times brutal and even hard to handle, especially when you have done everything within your power, everything that could be required to make you succeed, and then you find yourself failing. It could be very hard. You feel like giving up. You feel like there is no hope for you because you have lost your time, you have lost probably your investment, and you've lost a lot more. If you're not careful how you handle this failure, then the most common thing is to find yourself running away and trying something else. But again, if you cannot face the failure, then you're not going to grow. So what do you do when you meet failure? The first thing to do when you meet failure is to remain calm. You need to be calm and collected. Do not break down and cry. I know you're human. You can do it for a moment, but then you have to be able to calm yourself down and identify what are those things that you did that didn't go right. What is it that you did that accounted for the failure? Then take responsibility for those actions. Take responsibility for your own failure so you can be able to see how much you can do to improve. Running away from failure is never an excuse, and it's never a solution. Because failure from which you learn is success. As the saying goes, when you succeed, you can lead. And when you fail, you can guide. So either way, it's a win-win for you. So the earlier you're able to embrace failure, the better for you. Because failure, contrary to what you think, is not your friend. It's not your enemy, sorry. Failure is your friend because it gives you the opportunity to learn and to do better. You must be able to accept failure and disappointment as part of life so that you can learn from it. Avoid blame games. Take responsibility for what you did that went wrong and see how it can be fixed. Because failure has a way of always bringing us opportunities of growth and new beginnings. And with the right mindset, every setback can become an opportunity for a comeback. Because you actually grow faster when you fail. That is why they say you have to fail your way to success. What does this mean? This indirectly is telling you or proving to you that failure It's a requirement for success. Allow failure to nourish your success, because failure is that nourishment that you require to be able to succeed. You actually have to fail your way to success. So do not hate failure and do not try to run from it, because you must meet and embrace failure if you want to grow. So how badly are you willing to grow? If you are ready to do what it takes to grow, then one of those things, a condition sine qua non, is being able to embrace failure and deal with it. There are no two ways about it. So every time you fail, instead of crying, instead of breaking down, instead of feeling disappointed, you have to gain experience from that failure and grow. Because failure is a learning opportunity, in as much as you take the time to identify why you failed and what needs to change. Because failure is not permanent, and failure is not final. With the right perspective, with the right mindset, in fact, a positive mindset, you rise up from every failure wiser, stronger, and more determined to succeed. When you come across failure, or when you come face to face with failure, another thing that kills us is trying to look for excuses instead of a solution. Because the only way to overcome failure is if you are able to face it squarely and seek solutions to it. But if you instead choose to give excuses as to why you had to fail, or why you could not and should never succeed, then there is no way any growth is going to happen. That is not how you grow. Of course, I've come across a lot of people who are quick to run off the moment they've made the first failure. The moment they come across failure, they are very quick to run off. And so they end up jumping from one failure in one field to the next without ever growing from any of those. You need to be able to learn to resist the urge to run away every time you fail, and know that you can only learn and grow by capitalizing on that failure to take on again on that same activity you engage in that brought the failure. That is how you succeed. There are no two ways. Else you could only become a jack of all trades but a master of none. You need to use failure, capitalize on failure to master your art. Capitalize on failure to master one thing, to master one skill, to master one investment line, so that you do not have to jump from one thing to the next. Because failure is everywhere. It is waiting for you everywhere because it is important for you. If you've been that person who has to jump from one activity to the next, immediately they meet a wall, immediately they meet failure staring at them in the eyes, then you need to change. So that is not the way to grow. You cannot grow like that. Failure is not your enemy. It never was, it never has been, and it never will ever be. It should be your strength. It should be your building block from which you grow. So what I'm trying to tell you today is, when you come across failure, when you encounter failure, what you have to do is Learn from it. Evaluate what you did that did not go right. What you did that went right, that you can maximize it. And then you will be able to develop a new action plan and try again. Because the plan is fail, learn, try again, fail, upgrade, try again until you succeed. There's no optional rule. Because like I said, every failure from which you learn is success. It is. It always is, and it always has been, and it's always going to be. So you fail, you adjust, you try again and again till you succeed. That is the only way you are going to grow, my dear friend. If you keep running every time you fail, then you may never succeed in anything. Your love for success or your desire for success must be more than your fear of failure. Remain committed. Be consistent. Be coachable. Be teachable. And that's how you're going to attain consistent success. There are no two ways about it, my dear friend. Keep your game and allow failure to nourish your success. Because failure that comes, or success that comes after failure, is always very sweet. There is this scientist who did a great job with the light bulb. And he had to fail 1,000 times. But he never gave up. And when the journalist asked him, how could you fail 1,000 times and still keep going? And his response was very simple and straight to the point. He said, I did not fail 1,000 times, but rather I learned 1,000 times that did not work. So to him, he had discovered 1,000 times that could not work, instead of looking at it as having failed 1,000 times. That is a positive mindset. That's a growth mentality. And if you do not have such a mindset, then there is no way, absolutely no way you're going to grow. So every failure you come across, you should look at it as an opportunity to do better, an opportunity to grow, a lesson. That is what failure should be to you, and not a prison that you're trying to run from. Because the moment you look at it as a prison, you will try a prison break. And you could spend your entire life running away from one failure to the next, and you will never grow. Take it as a lesson, as a learning opportunity, and you will see how you can outlive it. One of the worst things that brings failure, or that makes failure to look bad, is fear. And the problem here is, when you are afraid of failing, the first thing that happens is you are not going to commit fully. Because you have doubt in your head. You keep asking yourself, what if I do not succeed? What if things don't go right? What if, what if, what if? And all of these what ifs are the reasons for which you will not commit 100%. And as long as you do not commit 100%, then you cannot think of succeeding. You will not only fail, but you are going to run immediately you fail and try to go to something else, in which you still are going to only commit halfway. So commitment is key. You have to be committed. You have to be consistent. because it is only consistent commitment that can bring consistent success. Failure is not your enemy. It is your friend. And the earlier you can learn from failure, the better for you, my dear friend. Don't give up at the first failure. Build on it. And like I already said, remember that failure from which you learn is success. If you keep reaching after every failure, there is no way, absolutely no way, you're going to be good at anything. You have to work hard. Put in your all. Put in everything it takes to succeed. And be ready to fail. For the faster you fail, or the more failures you get, the faster you succeed. If you do not do the work, then you cannot reap the fruits. You know, the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary, because it starts with S and work starts with W. Elsewhere, in real life, in the life that we are living today, you have to work to be able to succeed. And that work involves failure. That work involves being able to embrace that failure. That work involves being able to learn from failure, allowing failure to become your teacher, allowing failure to become your inspiration, allowing failure to help you build a foundation, build a base from which you can grow to be able to succeed. Success does not happen by chance. And success is not sexually transmitted. You have to work for it. You have to be ready to do what it takes to succeed. And failure is one of those things. You have to be ready to fail. You have to be ready to fail your way to success. Because for as long as you continue to look at failure as an enemy, you look at failure as a setback, you look at failure as a bad thing, then there is no way, absolutely no way, you are ever going to succeed at anything. You will find yourself jumping from one failure to the next as you try new things every time you fail. Instead of building your capacity on the failure that you already recorded, learning from it, and trying the same thing that you failed at again. Because like I told you, the key is fail, adjust, try again, fail, adjust, try again and again until you succeed. You cannot remove failure out of the equation. Because until you have failed, you do not know the limitations or the boundaries of what you are doing. As they say, it's easy. Someone who is already lying on the floor cannot fall any further. The only thing is to rise. That's how you should look at failure. Once you have failed, let it be your lesson and not your prison. Let it be a base on which you are going to build so that you can now be able to move out of that failure. It becomes your foundation on which you are going to raise the wall of your project, get to the roof of your project, and be able to nail it. The more you fear failure, the more it comes to you unexpectedly. And that is how you keep running from one failure to the next and to the next. Meanwhile, you could learn from one and capitalize on it. So how do you approach failure? The first thing is to calm down. Get hold of yourself and see what went wrong. The second thing is take responsibility for what you did that was not right. It's not time to engage in any blame games, because blaming is not going to help anybody. Take your own responsibility for what you did that went wrong and see how to build on it. The third thing is set a new plan. And of course, it's going to be a better plan than the previous one. because you are already gaining what we call experience, because you are trying to do what you already did and failed. But only this time around, you are doing it with some experience, with a better approach, because you already know the things that did not work the last time, that you can learn from and be able to do it better this time around. And even if you still fail the second time, I bet you would have learned new things. If you are not consistent at failing, you would hardly be consistent at succeeding. Because the fear of failure is the fear of success. And you cannot allow that fear of failing to overpower your desire to succeed. How badly do you really want to succeed? You need to answer this question to yourself. And then you will know what is actually stopping you from succeeding. What happens is people do not always see the backside of every success. Because what people see is the trophy. Because you've been working hard in silence. But if you had the opportunity to talk to the people you admire today, those people you see today as success stories, you'll be surprised, you'll be marveled at how much failure they had to deal with. They made failure, they made rejection, they made disappointments, they made discouragement, they made hatred, they made all forms of setbacks. But if you are able to see and celebrate them today, if you are able to see them celebrate themselves today, then it's just because they did not give up the moment they made failure. They were able to learn from that failure. They were able to come back to that failure every now and then. That failure became a reference point for them. It became a reason or a foundation stone on which they were able to build, to be able to get better, to be able to succeed even more. So as long as you do not embrace this failure of a thing, as long as you do not make it your friend, then there is no way, I tell you, I can guarantee there is no way ever that you are going to be able to succeed. Because one very good thing about failure is that the moment you are ready to accept failure, it gives you that leverage. It gives you that, it gives you that power. Because you already know there is nothing, you could never get worse than failure. And then you are able to give in fully. You are able to embrace everything and face the risk and the challenges that will come with whatsoever project you are engaging in. Because nothing ventured, nothing gained. So don't try to run away from failure. You need to be able to embrace it and learn from it. So that is going to be your leeway. It's going to be, let me call it your highway to succeeding. Every glory has a story. And the story for every success is some failure, is some rejection, is some heartbreak, it is some disappointment, it is some backbiting, some gossiping. That is how every story gets to its glory. No sweat, no sweat. No risk, no gain. That's what they say. So I hope this is going to encourage you. And whatever time you watch this video, I hope you'll be able to go through this and let it be able to inspire you and encourage you to not give up, to not try to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Because the reason for being the jack of all trades is running away from failure, trying to avoid failure as if it were a plague, as if it were COVID-19, as if it were some condemnation. No. Failure is not final. And failure is not your destination. It's a speed break It's a speed bump where you have to slow down to be able to leap further. You can take experience from people who shoot dart or bow and arrows. In order to be able to shoot an arrow from a bow to go the furthest possible, you need to drag it back. The further you drag the ball back with the string, the further your show is going to go. That's how you should look at failure. It should be that draw back for a better leap so that I can propel you further away. As long as you do this, as long as you're able to embrace failure, that is how you too are going to embrace success. And you succeed very easily if you fail very often. That means you should make failure your friend. You should be comfortable failing so that you can be able to learn from it the best way possible. Let failure be your teacher. Let failure be your foundation. Let failure be your opportunity to build experience. As I look forward to seeing you some other time. Thank you for watching. And try to drop a comment anytime you watch this. Let me know if this video blessed you. Let me know if you were able to learn anything from this video. In fact, I want to thank you very much for your comment. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to see more comments. Thank you. Have a great Sunday. Shalom. I'm out. See you some other time.